Good morning, everyone, and happy Saturday. Welcome to Women Build of 2021 with Habitat Greater Fresno Area. My name is Sarah Petalty, and I am the Volunteer Engagement Manager for our affiliate. Today, I will be serving as a moderator for our session. We also have Megan Scholl, Donor Engagement Specialist, who will be assisting with tech, and Berna Alag, Habitat AmeriCorps member with our Neighborhood Revitalization Department, who will be assisting with our Q&A and question and answer. This session will be recorded and you can view it again within the next few weeks on our Women Build webpage, which can be found on habitatfresno.org. It will be a great way to review what you've already seen as well as share with others who aren't able to join us today. Throughout today's session, the only visible videos will be from our presenters and each attendee has been muted. If you would like to engage in conversation with panelists and attendees throughout the presentation, please feel free to use the chat box that is at the bottom of your screen. Questions can also be submitted at the bottom of your screen. Questions submitted previously through registration will be addressed during the presentation. Some questions may have been reassigned to previous sessions where they were a better fit with the content and the presenters. As I mentioned during the panel discussion, if you do have a question, please feel free to drop it in the Q&A box, which is at the bottom of your screen as well, next to the chat. We will be asking those during the presentation, or we will be saving them for the end during the question and answer period. During that question and answer period, you will also have the opportunity to come off mute if you would like to ask a question live. Otherwise, that Q&A box will still be available. Immediately following the presentation of the panel discussion and the question and answer period, we will have a closing video as well as a raffle. So make sure to stick around for the raffle. Before we jump in and get started and meet the lovely ladies that are on the screen, we want to take a minute just to share a little bit more about Habitat and Women Build. Habitat for Humanity's mission is to put God's love into action by bringing people together to build homes, communities, and hope. Women Build Week is an annual week-long event created by Habitat International's Women Build program in partnership with Lowe's. Lowe's has contributed more than $78 million to Habitat for Humanity International, and Lowe's Heroes, who are volunteers from Lowe's, have volunteered at Home Build for more than 17,000 Habitat families around the country. Since 1991, when Women Build started with Habitat International, women have come together with Habitat for Humanity to inspire, empower, and support each other through building homes, communities, and hope. Today's session will feature an open panel discussion with the women of Habitat Greater Fresno Area. Before we get started, let's take a look at how each of us came to be where we are today. As you can see, we have an amazing group of women with us today. I feel like we've met everybody already, but let's take let's take a moment to learn a little bit more about each lady on the panel. Can you kick us off by sharing your name, a brief background, and your involvement with Habitat?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, my name is Mary Ayala. I am the Family Services Coordinator. A little bit about my background. I've worked in financing for the past 15 years. I currently hold my mortgage loan officer license. And previously, before I started with Habitat for Humanity, I was working for a private lender doing home mortgage loans. And after that, I got a call from one of our staff that's no longer with us, but I love her to death. And she was like, hey, we have a position opening here for Habitat for Humanity. We need someone to help out with family services. And I thought, well, why not give it a try? And, you know, I would not want to go back to where I was at before. I love Habitat for Humanity. The world that I was in before was cold, and the world that I'm in now with Habitat for Humanity is a warm, loving world, and I wouldn't change it for anything. That's all I got.
I'll go next. I'm Robin Goldbeck. Locally here in Fresno, I'm professionally an architect, but I have been a longtime volunteer with Habitat for Humanity. I first got involved, in fact, with the first Women Built project here, volunteering out on the job site. I had no construction skills and learned both some of that and helped organize some of the previous Women Build efforts. I have also served on various committees for Habitat and on the board. And right now, I do professionally do the plans for some of the single family homes that Habitat is building. And it's always been, I think Mary described a great aspect, the warmth of Habitat. It's had certainly ups and downs over the years, but really been a presence in the community, starting from a small, really small affiliate and growing to the structure and outreach, particularly that Habitat Fresno has now, Habitat Greater Fresno area. So glad to be a part of this event today too.
I'll go. Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Chelsea Allen. I am, just a little background, I'm originally from Portland, Oregon. I've been here in Fresno for over 10 years now. I am the resident engagement coordinator and also a Habitat directly. So it's just a blessing to be a part of the organization, and it's been a lovely journey. I'm sure we'll get more into be able to share that. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ashley Hedeman, and I am the HR and Operations Manager for Habitat for Humanity Greater Fresno Area and co-interim CEO. And I'm really excited everybody's here today. A little bit about my background. I started with Habitat Greater Fresno Area when it was Habitat Fresno County about 14 years ago as a volunteer baking cookies. And then I gradually worked my way into volunteering on the new home construction site, swinging my hammer. And now here I am as the HR and Operations Manager for the affiliate. So I've worn several hats throughout my 14 years of service to Habitat Greater Fresno Area. And thank you all for taking the time today to be with us.
I'll go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Yua Bang, and I am the Family Services Coordinator for the Neighborhood Revitalization Department. I am with Habitat as a child of Habitat homeowners. So my parents are actually Habitat homeowners. We moved into our Habitat home in 2011, and the Neighborhood Revitalization Department at the time came around doing a lot of backpack drives, toy drives, movie nights, and I started volunteering for those things, and that's kind of how I got got involved in Habitat. So eventually I joined the team as a staff member.
I can go next. Hi, my name is Marina Harutunian. I am the Director of Compliance and Community Development at Habitat for Humanity Greater Fresno area. My background, I am first-generation immigrant here in the United States. My several trips to US were connected to my desire to develop my life to humanitarian work back home, because I come from a country that is very troubled in terms of politically and financially. I went through a lot of historical eras in my life, one of them being the collapse of the Soviet Union. And my desire was to come here to the United States to have my graduate degree and to understand the treasures of the Western world and take it back to less fortunate countries, which was my homeland. I worked with a lot of humanitarian organizations, bringing a lot of development to the rural and remote areas of Armenia. And my first interaction with Habitat was over 15 years ago when I was working with another nonprofit in Armenia. We had to have a joint collaboration with Habitat in a rural part of the country, where we were bringing a lot of programs for the youth in those areas. So you know, the literacy rate in Armenia is 99%, but a lot of the country is in a rural and remote and borderline territories where people have literally access to no resources. So the task that we had with Habitat back then is to bring those development programs to that wonderful youth in those areas. And it was just a winner. And I do remember how easy it was to partner with Habitat. And when I immigrated to United States, it was, you know, just a magic there happened, because they advertised the position, and when I read the job description, it was basically, you know, my world described in one sheet of paper. So I immediately applied, and I think that was the only position that I interviewed for. I did not go to any other interview, just that one, and it was just you know, match really made in heaven. I've been working with Habitat ever since. My position involves a lot of the compliance with the federal, local, state funding that we get to be able to bring those resources to families in Fresno. Believe it or not, a lot of the issues and concerns that I see, you know, from the residents are very similar to back home. It's sad, but it's true. So our task at Neighborhood Revitalization Department is to bring those resources to the families that have lost trust towards, you know, other agencies. So that's what I do daily.
Awesome. Thank you all so much again for being here. And you have such an amazing, amazing backgrounds and experiences. It's an honor to work with you as well. My name is Verna, again, as Sarah mentioned, and I'm in the Neighborhood Revitalization Department, doing some of the volunteer engagement as well. So I'll be asking you all a few questions. I guess the first one I want to start it off is, so you told us how you got involved with Habitat. So what keeps you involved, especially for those like Ashley, you said you've been here for over 14 years, and many of you others have been here several years or a few years. What keeps you involved, and what sets Habitat apart from other organizations in this industry for women to work at? Why Habitat?
I would have to say, for me, knowing that I'm making a huge difference in a person's life, a family's life, that gives me the energy to just keep going in the long process that we have for family selection, finding the families. It is a long process, but just knowing that I can change a family's life for the better gives me that energy, and it's just, it keeps me going.
I would add to that. You go ahead, Robin, please. I was just going to say that the thing that has always motivated me with Habitat is being able to work right alongside the partner families. Habitat doesn't give this to anyone. The families work their sweat equity hours and participate in many aspects of the affiliate. And it's always been inspiring to me to meet those families. And when I was younger and working on the job sites in the field, I got to work right alongside of them. I've been up on roofs with partner families. I've poured concrete with partner families, of course, help frame. So all kinds of aspects, the families learn both the skills and they really have a connection to their home. And I think that makes such a different aspect that Habitat provides to the partner families. And I've always been very impressed and motivated by that process.
Wonderful. And for me, I think that safe and affordable housing is really a basic human right. And, you know, it's wonderful that there's an organization that I can devote my time and my passion to achieve that cause. Home ownership is really something that we've heard that many times, but it is an American dream. A lot of people overseas, they can never achieve that goal of becoming a homeowner or living in a safe and affordable house, which is, something that neighborhood revitalization also achieves through different means. And I think that what keeps me here is the ability to contribute to that because, sometimes the mission is there, but, the organization is not on the right track. With Habitat here in Fresno, we have all that it takes. We have the mission and we have the passion to achieve what is in our strategic goals. And as women, we have an important task here because I think we are able to connect to our families in a different way. And that one-on-one time, listening to their problems and understanding the issues. Women are the pillars of their families. And sometimes they can give us a lot of information that helps us apply for funding and bring more resources to what's important in the Valley.
And I think I just would echo what the ladies before me have said. That's primarily what keeps me here. In addition to being able to learn, I think that's one of the cool things about being involved at Habitat is the ability to be able to learn and apply what you're learning to a good cause. So I think that's an additional reason why I'm still here is I'm learning and growing every day, and it's just so amazing to be able to give back to the community in a positive way while you're growing yourself.
I think I would have to directly echo that, Ashley. I've got into Habitat, of course, becoming a Habitat homeowner, but I was very much into staying with the mission, and I wanted to work with the teams that the teammates that I was meeting out on construction and in the restore. And it's just, we call it the Habitat bug, getting bit by the Habitat bug. And that's a literal thing. Once Habitat blesses you, you just get that mission and that feel in you, and you want to bless others. So I think that's what's definitely kept me involved in the organization outside of just being a homeowner.
I think for me personally, of course, it's because I've experienced firsthand how life-changing Habitat's services and programs are. And I want to stay committed to the work of Habitat because I know there's other families out there like mine that need this help. And so that's why I continue to do what I do.
Wonderful. Thank you all for sharing. I know that some of our panel members initially got involved with Habitat as part of a Women Build or have participated in Women Build in the past. Can those of you who have participated in Women Build, can you share a little bit more about your previous experience specifically with those events, how that experience may have impacted you or influenced your perceptions and your commitment to Habitat?
I'll go ahead and start since I was part of the first Fresno, Habitat Women Build. We built Mrs. Arlene Harris's home on Clara Street, not far from the larger Clara development, but it was a single family lot. And in that day, there were not core volunteers. There was not a structured education program the way Habitat has grown now. There was not a separate fundraising arm that Habitat has now. We pretty much did it all. It was sort of an ad hoc effort under the auspices of Women Build, Habitat International. Jackie Holmes, the founder of the affiliate here, just said, let's do this project. Let's bring awareness of what women can do. Let's empower women to learn some of these skills. And so a bunch of us came together, and Jackie said to me one day, she says, you're an architect. Would you like to run this project? Well, I was young, and it says naive right here. And I said, sure, I'll do that. So when we talk about learning experiences, that certainly was one. We procured the materials. Some days it was myself and maybe Mrs. Harris, maybe one or two of her children out on the job site with me. I remember some foggy January mornings that we would have liked to have been inside and warmer, but we came together and figured out how to install windows. I'd never installed a window before, and the first one didn't go in perfectly. And we moved it around until we were able to get it in so it would slide just properly. And not only was I learning, but Mrs. Harris and her children, her son Isaac was probably maybe just in high school, and her daughter's a little bit younger than that, if I recall. And so we all worked together. We worked with other women volunteers. That house happens to have concrete tiles because Jackie procured a donation of that. And if any of you know, they are very heavy to move. The supplier loaded them on the roof, and then we had to move them all around that roof and install them. That's not a material Habitat often uses now. And so it was just an extreme learning process every step of the way. And really one of the reasons I got involved was to learn construction. And I had that opportunity from now till weeks from now, for months. So that was kind of an exciting part of that first Women Built, is we came together, had a woman plumber. I don't think we had an electrician, but women from some of the trades, but largely every other walk of life, school teachers, city employees, IRS employees, anything you can imagine, came together with a desire to serve and to build this house. And I will just mention that it is, for me, it was a non-threatening way to learn some construction skills. To be on a site with all women was one of the attractions. As an architect, I was pretty daunted by not knowing much of how the actual building that I would draw was going together. And Habitat gave me the experience and some knowledge to do actually my professional job better.
I think for me, I've been involved in two previous Women Builds with Habitat in the Greater Fresno area. And I think one of the biggest opportunities of being involved is really networking and coming together and seeing at the end of this process a finished home and a family that you've worked so hard with alongside with you for however many months it turns out to be. It's amazing to be able to say, I worked with this group of women to build this home. I can remember raising my first set of walls in our first Women's Build, and I looked down, this memory is still in my brain. I looked down the line, and here's this group of women lifting this huge wall up, and we did it. You know, it was amazing to see. It was just a matter of coming together, communicating, and we raised a wall all by ourselves. It was pretty cool. And just working together and learning about the other women we're working with. As Robin mentioned in her experience, my experience was very similar, just coming together with women from all walks of life. I think that was so neat. And some of the women that I met on those original Women Build projects are still very close friends of mine today. So I think that was a really powerful moment for me, and definitely one of the reasons I think that it's kept me engaged in the affiliate as well, in reflecting on the previous question. So I think it's an amazing opportunity to work together to do make a positive impact the women in our community, and then also make a positive impact for families in our community.
I think for me it was, I've worked in construction since the mid 80s. And so I'm usually the only woman in the shop or on site of any sort. And so for me, it was a very different feel having it being all women. It was more relaxed and less, I have to lift this really heavy thing or they'll think I'm not capable. It was just nice to be able to, ask for help and not feel like I was going to get, the next day, oh, you need help with that and sort of stuff. So, so it was just really nice to have a group of women. It was all for the same goal and all trying to work towards the same thing, and just to see the just how unique that was for me, especially. So, and I think my first women's build was actually, I was volunteering at Grid Alternatives because they needed women volunteers, and the house was almost done. So I think that was my first women's build, and the second one was the next one. So anyway, it was just a wonderful experience to see all those people out there that looked very different than what I usually do. So anyway, that's mine.
Stacey, I think you touched on something interesting that we want to explore a little bit more. You talked about being a woman in the construction field outside of Habitat as well. And so one question I know that we wanted to ask as part of this Women Build discussion is as a woman in your specific field or career, have you experienced any challenges? And if you did, how did you overcome those challenges?
I think for me, if I wanted to work, I didn't have an option of, the stuff that so just a history lesson, I worked in theater in college, and I was, again, the only female doing construction stuff. Then I moved to LA and worked in the movie industry doing construction for movies. And again, with the exception of the set decorators and the prop ladies, I was the only woman actually building. You just had to feel your way through and figure it out. And, asking for help was not really an option. If the guy could do it, you had to be able to do it. And so there weren't anybody else, even of my direct friends. Some of my friends were the prop people and stuff, but they weren't doing the construction. They all had female people. A lot of them were led by females, the props and stuff. Anyway, so it was you just had to figure it out. You just had to deal with the remarks you got. I learned lots of new words that I did not know going to church. And so you just have to figure out how to deal with it. And when you work hard, the guys become your allies that work with you all the time. So that was always nice. I always felt safe with the small group of guys I worked with, because they knew I worked hard and was capable. It was usually when we went out to another area when you're working with guys that don't know you, that you get all the interesting comments. So, but yeah, you just figure it out. So it's just nice to have a more relaxed atmosphere, to say the least. So,
And I would have to share Stacey's sentiment. Over the course of my time here at Habitat, I've had the opportunity to work very closely with new home construction in particular. And I would share that sentiment is, if you're willing to work hard and are knowledgeable about what you're doing, oftentimes that breaks down any particular barriers that women might face in the industry. But that sometimes means that you have to be the more educated party. When we're working with external entities, sometimes that is a challenge. It's sometimes there is that tone of, who is this lady that does she know what she's even talking about? And oftentimes, if you can go in a little bit more knowledgeable with terms and with just a process, that oftentimes will begin to break down the barrier. And it's something that, and I'm just reflecting on a conversation that I had a few weeks ago, and it definitely helps if you're willing to learn and willing to get your hands in there, get dirty, and have a good time too. Quite frankly, you got to be able to have a good time. I know one of our golden rules here at Habitat Greater Fresno area is 50-50, which means it's 50% fun and 50% work, and we take that seriously. I think going in and approaching my interactions in a male-dominated industry, or what traditionally has been a male-dominated industry, has really helped break down those barriers for me and my experience. Robin, have you had any experiences in your career like that?
Sure, I've had some instances on job sites and it's kind of men of a certain age looking askance, but back to Stacy's point of just having some knowledge and not expecting that they were going to, you know, just take my word for it because I said so, because I'm the architect. I had to really know what code section something applied to when I was telling them to change out to a correct lumber size. I mean, that's a very simplistic example. I also, so one good aspect was I generally had the support of my employers. When they would send me out on job sites, they would, you know, let everyone know that this is the representative, and that I always went to job sites. And I've also always worked also with the city entities, the planning and building departments, from a standpoint of advocacy for my clients professionally. And that's the thing that I've tried to do with my habitat work, is I want to be part of an advocate for the homeowners. You know, when we design currently right now, the habitat single family homes, how can we make this energy efficient? How can we make this up to date within the budget that we're working with? And lots of pieces that come together to make that happen help me advocate for our homeowner families.
If I could share really quickly, I can just remember a time on a job site. We had a pretty hefty project in front of us, which was doing a trash cleanup in like a rural area. So that usually entails like huge piles of debris and old furniture and just all the things you can think of. And it was about 4 of us, and it was all women. And the guy kind of made a few jokes about, oh, how are you guys gonna get all this stuff in there? Am I gonna have to help you? And, you know, so we've kind of really had those experiences quite a bit, actually, with some of the work we've done, and it being just girls, ladies. So it's fun to go out there and show our muscle and show how organized we can be and how gracefully we can do things. And I do enjoy, you know, flexing that muscle out there at our acts of kindness projects. With it being a lot of women out there, it creates a great energy, and I don't think it blocks guys from wanting to come and participate. I think it makes us all come together even more so, because it's not judgmental, like many people have mentioned, and it doesn't feel like a competition. It just feels like family working and getting it done. So that's my experience.
I was going to mention one other time. I just actually happened on a habitat site where there was a gentleman who came. He was a very sweet guy. I think he was a pastor of a church, and he brought his group out. And when he showed up, they were all guys. And he showed up, he's like, so what are the women going to do? And Rick says, they're going to build the house. We're all building the house together. And so I think that was great that's one of the things I like about Habitat. There's no exclusion. So people who maybe not realize that women can do lots of stuff get exposed to women doing lots of stuff. So I thought that was Rick was on it. He was like, they're the same as all of us. We're all building the house together. So I think it was good for that guy to see that, you know, we're all capable. So anyway.
I think for me, my personal experience is that I come from a culture where it's very male dominated. So growing up, it's always been encouraged for women to not have a voice, to not have an opinion. And this has been a huge challenge for me, not just in my career, but throughout my life. Just overcoming that and learning to have a voice, learning to speak up, learning to just have an opinion on things. And how I'm overcoming that is that just working with a group of women in the construction field, seeing such inspiring and powerful women inspires me to get rid of that stigma and learn to have a voice. And so, yeah.
So yeah, many of you have mentioned being the only woman in your workplace. But did you have any women mentors in your life, whether it was through work or any family members who played a role in empowering you? And in what ways did they do so?
Mine was my mom. I didn't have any really roles mentoring when I was in my work life, other than just great people occasionally, but nobody who was doing construction like I was. I only ever met one other woman who was doing construction when I was in LA, and she was not very friendly to me because apparently I was competition. I don't know. Anyway, but my mom built houses with my dad. So all of the houses we've ever lived in up to a certain point were all built by my mom and my dad or my family. So knowing that you could, that it was even an option. When in my family, it was not an option for me to do construction. It was a very Mennonite, or Pentecostal. Half was Pentecostal, half was Mennonite. There was, construction was not an option, generally speaking. But my mom did that stuff, and she was, 3 months pregnant, building a house 2 stories up. So clearly, it was possible. So that kind of inspired me to realize that if I wanted to do that, that I shouldn't listen to anybody. So.
For me, so I also come from a very patriarchal society. So, getting a position, a job, usually, you would compete against a lot of overqualified men. So I think that a mentor for me was one of my former employers. I was fresh out of college, and she gave me a very responsible job to take and lead an entire department. And, during the interview, she said something like, you are very green, but I know that you can do it. And, it's something that you will learn as you build the plane that you are going to fly on. So I think that she was breaking. And when I left the organization, we were talking to her constantly, and she just said she was a single mom, and she was a scientist, and she achieved a lot in her life. And she shared that, it's about breaking the barriers in the women themselves. A lot of the times we don't give ourselves enough credit, and we automatically assume that a male would be better to do a certain job. And I think it's about the education piece, educating young women that there are no barriers. We're as good as any other male on the jobs or in the positions that we do. And I think that us, growing up and becoming certain leaders in our areas, I think we also have the responsibility of breaking those barriers and letting someone know that, giving them that chance, it's a life-changing opportunity. I was given that chance by a leader woman in her field, and she believed in me, and I feel like I'm responsible for doing the same thing sometime in my future. And every day I have a daughter, and I have a son and a daughter, and sometimes my son asks funny questions like, well, she might not be able to do that. No, she actually can do it better than you. So it's about educating from that very early age, being responsible in our employment places and our households, and breaking those barriers ourselves. We can't expect anyone to do that.
I would have to say my experience was pretty similar to Stacy's, in that my first mentors were my parents, and my mom and my dad. I remember growing up and working on cars with my dad. I reupholstered a 1966 Mustang convertible with my dad. So, that's just some of those things that for me, it was, okay, well, let's just do it. And that was really modeled by both of my parents. So I was highly encouraged to just pursue whatever made my heart happy, and encouraged to keep pursuing even if I faced barriers. So I would have to say that. And then in terms of the industry itself, I may have had maybe a little less traditional path compared to some of the other ladies. I'm not sure, but finding another male mentor, I did find a male mentor in the industry, and I think his support and his dedication to teaching me and helping me learn has really helped me move past some of the barriers as well. So I think it's important to find your mentor and find and then carry that torch on to a future mentee, as Marina mentioned, is taking other people under their wing. If they want to learn, let's share. You know, I think knowledge is really important and is really power in a lot of ways.
I'll just share quickly a couple things. Ashley, I've had a similar experience with a wonderful male mentor who actually hired me as his first employee several years ago. Okay, maybe it was 30 years. And in fact, we are still associated as he is looking towards retirement. I am helping him with some projects that he has ready to close out, and he has been a resource to me professionally. And even before that, though, there were a handful of women architects, 2 in particular here in Fresno, that were ahead of me in their careers and were very willing to share what their work was like and what they had learned, and to kind of not so much take me under their wing. We have a professional organization, you may know the American Institute of Architects, but to really let me know that it was possible to move on as an architect in a career and in here in, frankly, the Central Valley that may not be the most progressive, certainly in that day of professional environments. So yeah, there were women that kind of paved the way for me. And as it turns out, right now I have 2, and they may be listening, Emily and Lizette, if you're listening, good morning, 2 employees. And I didn't set out to be a women firm, but right now that's how it looks. So hopefully they're both young and talented and hardworking, and I think they'll go far, and I hope I can play some small part in that mentorship as well.
I will have to say too, in the architectural firm, I now work as a drafter at an architectural firm and project manager, and there's only one guy. Besides the architect, he's a guy, but there's only one drafter who's a guy. The rest of the team is all female. So it may be change. He just you know, wanted to give more women opportunities. So it is changing, but I don't know if that's I haven't worked at too many other. I've only worked at one architectural firm, so I don't know what it is around the rest of them. But that's been a nice change for me. So.
Yeah, for me, I would have to say it would be my parents as well. My father, he's always taught me that there was nothing that we could not do. I was raised with being the only girl in the family with 2 boys, and they gave me the strength as well, my brothers, to kind of say, hey, you can do what we can do. And my father always told me the same thing. He's no longer here with us, but the perseverance that he always told us not to give up, and there was nothing that we couldn't do. It's if you have the will, there's a way. And that strength is with me throughout all my life. And I would have to say that he is my biggest mentor for me to know and give me the strength. There's things that, yeah, that a lot of people think that a woman could not do. He had me change tires. He had me help a tractor out in the field. He treated me just like my 2 brothers. My nickname from my brothers was Johnny. So, so that was like, that's where I got my strength from.
It's amazing to hear how influenced we are by the people around us. And Mary, we may start calling you Johnny now. You may have just secured that nickname again. Ashley, can we make her a new nameplate for her office, please? Perfect. So we've talked a lot about the impact of Habitat, the impact of Habitat specifically on that volunteer engagement side, particularly involved with Women Build. But we want to shift the focus of the impact a little bit, and I'm going to put a couple people on spot here, but Yua, can you share a little bit more about the impact of Habitat on your family? We know that Habitat has a lot of different programs. We're really excited and happy that throughout the last year, there's been a lot of unknowns, but Habitat has remained strong and continuing to serve. In our last fiscal year, we've served over 277 families which is amazing and incredible. And so Yua, can you share just a little bit more? I know you mentioned it earlier, but can you share a little bit more about the impact that Habitat had on your family as well as you specifically?
Sure. So like I mentioned before, my family's experience with Habitat has been so life-changing. So just a little bit about my family. My parents came to America seeking for a better life as a result of the Vietnam War. And they came to America with hope that they'll find a better place to live. My mom was disabled, and my dad had to quit his job to take care of my mom and the rest of the kids. So I have 4 sisters and 1 brother, and we were all living in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment at the time. And you know, they say that homeownership is a dream come true, and it really is, because at that time it was all but just a dream for us. We were living in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment, and it was just really bad because at the time the tenants from above us had left their water on, and their whole apartment flooded, and there was just leaks everywhere in our apartment, in the living room, kitchen, and bedroom, and eventually our whole entire ceiling caved in. And I can remember just the stress that my parents were going through at that time, not being able to find a place for us to stay. And so, you know, getting the opportunity to partner with Habitat is just so life-changing. I can attest that it's been such a positive impact on my parents, especially now. They don't have to worry about, you know, whether things are going to go wrong in the house. They have, basically, they don't have to worry about things that they had to worry about before, and they can pay attention to things that can move us forward. And so it's been such a life-changing experience.
Wow, what a touching story, Yua. And I think it's so amazing that you wanted to join Habitat as staff and give back as well, so that other families can be positively impacted. Chelsea, I know that you're also a Habitat homeowner. Yeah, I kind of want to ask you a similar question. How has Habitat impacted you, and specifically as a wife, mother, and homeowner?
I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble with my connection. Can you ask the question again?
Of course. So, yeah, how has Habitat impacted you as a wife, mother, and homeowner?
That's a loaded question. Let's see. As a wife and a mother, I would say it has created a more structured responsibility as both. I'm able to provide a home for my children. I'm able to make our house a home for our children and my husband. It gives you a purpose in that direction of trying to raise a family and create that stability and that structure for your family. So as a wife and a mother, it's completely improved my quality I have and just the confidence I have in myself now, feeling like I'm able to provide that security as a mother. So it has definitely highlighted that portion of me. And then as a homeowner, wow, I've been educated so much just about home ownership and credit. And Mary is awesome in what she does with getting these families together and whipping them into shape and getting them ready for this process. So it's been very encouraging to be able to tell other people how to do this and how it's possible. So just becoming a homeowner has made me like an advocate as well for being homeowners. I mean, especially to those who have had that like far-fetched dream, like you had mentioned, it just being a dream, like it can really happen no matter your circumstances or where you're starting at, or, you know, just whatever the case is. So Habitat has impacted my life so much. I would say it's gotten me to become an employee. So it's just been hugely impactful, even beyond just being a mother, a wife, and a homeowner. Just spiritually being around the team and the love we have amongst each other, mentioning mentors. Marina has been a great mentor to me, all the women in our organization. So it's just very encouraging, just to even go to work and see their faces when we can these days. So it's been a great impact for me. Thank you.
I'm going to say something. I know it's not planned. I'll be quick, but Chelsea, you had no other chance, and we just snatched you. And one thing that it's important about this situation is actually you being so bright was mentioned to me by no other person than Rick. You know, he saw you on the job site when you went there to do your sweat equity hours, and he was like, I think I want to hire Chelsea, but he didn't get a chance because, you know, I fought for you, and I think that you are an amazing addition to our Habitat family here. But you know, you are recognized as a talent being there on the job site on Saturdays, so by a man, which is, I think, is a great, you know, addition to our little story here. You're muted.
It's a joke that I was the harder worker aside of my husband. So, but yes, we definitely, we love the whole team. Habitat's amazing. So thank you for letting me share that.
And Chelsea, I will echo what Marina said. We are all so happy that you have joined the Habitat team, and I don't think you really had another choice. We were going to get you. It's been amazing to see you and your family's journey too. We're going to kind of hop over to Mary really quick. I know that Chelsea's family was one of your early families in your Habitat career that you worked with. Can you share a little bit more about the families that you've seen and the transformation that you've seen within families as they go through the Habitat homeownership process?
Sure. Yeah, it's amazing to see. You know, one doesn't know just seeing a person from the outside and not actually going into their home and knowing what their current living conditions are like. And, you know, previously when I worked years back, I worked with Self-Help Enterprises, and I'm sorry I said that name, but, you know, it was also for affordable housing as well. And I worked with families directly, but there was never a time where we went and did home visits like we do with Habitat for Humanity. And that was a moment for me when I started with Habitat for Humanity with my first couple of home visits, is that I seen for myself the current living conditions that these families are living in, that many of us, many of those who help out with Habitat and volunteers, that they're not familiar with what we see, and only the Family Selection Committee sees. But you see the difference in what Yua was saying, you know, having water leaks, broken windows, moldy windows. I know that for one family, it really broke my heart when they had a baby, and they only had a 2-bedroom home. There's 5 of them, actually 6, now there's 7. And the baby was staying in the mom and dad's bedroom. And as I was checking the windows, it was full of mold, and the baby's crib was right next to the window. So that baby was inhaling that moisture from that mold. And that was just like, for me, just such a big eye opener in knowing that we are making such a difference for families. Yes, the American dream is for a lot of our families times to where they feel that this is something that could never be for them, and we make that difference for them. And this is why I'm with Habitat for Humanity, because we make that difference for our families.
It's so amazing to hear all the different ways you guys make such a big impact on families and your daughters, your kids, people around you. And as you've been talking, I feel like I've been hearing this theme of empowerment, whether it's feeling empowered or empowering others. And I want to ask more specifically, what is your vision for empowering the next team of women to build together as we plan for the traditional Women Build 2022, hoping that things will be a little bit back to normal?
I think just coming from from my world of acts of kindness, I would love to get like just the women from different places around Fresno, whatever they are, organizations, companies, and just find a good project for us all to participate in and just beautify someone's home in whatever way we can. I would just love to incorporate the Women's Build more so into our program as a feature into our program, to where we recruit women on that particular day. And we try to get some people out there in the community to be recognized at these other jobs and organizations as well, for coming out together and to just show act of kindness. So for me, I just see a big project being put together to just honor the Women's Build for 2022.
I think I would have to agree with Chelsea. It's with just engaging more women in our community and building that camaraderie, and we're continuing to build upon these discussions that we're having now to be able to turn that into repairs for a family, or even a new home for a family down the line here. This is a great opportunity for us to continue to network and work together to continue to build homes, communities, and hope in our community.
I think that we women are wired in a way that we always want to know the purpose of everything that we do. What's the end goal? So I think it's about Habitat being the storyteller. It will bring the women together, and we will be able to achieve what we plan. And I think that Women Build can definitely be a way to connect the strong leading women here in Fresno and Madera and our service area. Sometimes I think we've been away from really actively networking for, unfortunately, a whole year here, and just getting back out there and finding out what everyone was up to and how we can bring all these wonderful women together to do a project that will make a difference, and definitely telling the story of the project, of the family. I think that's one of the most powerful ways of bringing leader women together. And yes, perhaps as Chelsea mentioned, start doing something unorthodox, something that was never done before, because I think that we have the ability to attract some talent here that we may not know it's somewhere next door. So a lot of outreach, and definitely bringing the women together for the 2022 over an interesting project.
I'm going to put Robin and Stacy on the spot quick. As volunteers, what would you like to see for Women Build 2022?
I'll go first, Stacy. I think just kind of what the others have been speaking of would be my vision is, kind of women from all the walks of life that can be inspired by Habitat's mission and inspired to work with partner families, whether it's one large project, whether it's many others spread out. You know, I'll just quickly tell the story of, I think it was the second Women Build for Bertie Smoot. She was a single mom, and she had actually lost a daughter to a drunk driving accident. And when we poured the slab for her house, and many of you may know that, so you prepare the dirt and then the concrete goes over that before you even get to the wall raising stage. She and her family had some artwork in remembrance of her daughter, and we actually put that under the concrete, and the truck was waiting, and we stood there, we all gathered, and we said a prayer over her family. And it was just a really powerful moment. We didn't care that concrete guy was waiting for us or anything. But that was just, to me, that's one of the many clear times of women coming together and supporting each other. You know, again, some people came out with no skills, and it didn't matter if you could swing a hammer or what you could do. You were coming together for this woman and for this family. And I would just hope for more opportunities like that.
Yeah, I think for me, I always see somehow when people ask me what I do and I said I do construction, it just seems to be a lack of confidence in their ability to be able to do it, to be able to understand it. And I would just like to see women feel, even if they don't go into the construction industry, that doesn't mean you can't build something in your house or fix something, or, you know, you just to be able to build their confidence in that they're capable and they can figure this out. And it's not that complicated. I mean, there's parts that can be, but it's something that they can figure out. It's not, especially if we do it as a community and we build it together. So I just would like to see that be, you know, I think that's what we've been doing through Women's Build. It'd just be nice for the reach to be even bigger. So, but yeah, I don't know how to do that. That's, you know, the people over there's job. Habitat. So anyway, just more confidence and just seeing people being more confident. So like everybody here's been talking about. So.
Perfect. Thank you all. I know we're all very excited for a Women Build 2022. As we get towards the end of our session here, we do want to take some time to open it up for questions from our attendees. If you do have any questions for the panel, please feel free to drop them into either the Q&A or the chat that are at the bottom of your screen. We do have a couple here that were submitted during the registration period. But again, I encourage you, if you have a question, now is the time to answer it. If you would like to speak instead of typing your question, go ahead and hit that raise hand button and we will unmute you so that you can share. But the first question that we have here is, how can people volunteer outside of Women Build? That's kind of my job, my role. So I guess I'll go ahead and answer it. So we do have volunteers involved year round, not just during a Women Build period. And so volunteers are involved in all of our program areas, which are represented by our team on the panel. And so right now we have volunteers active in neighborhood revitalization, specifically acts of kindness, which are minor beautification projects. We have volunteers involved in our restores, which are stores that sell new and gently used home improvement items, with the proceeds helping to fund our mission in the communities. We have 3 stores, one in Clovis, one in Fresno, and one in Madera. And then we also will be starting volunteers at our construction site. We've had a little bit of lull in volunteer opportunities, but are very excited to be kicking off 2 homes in Clovis later this spring. So stay tuned for the construction dates. But if you are interested in volunteer opportunities outside of Women Build, feel free to visit. I'm going to put a link in the chat that is for our website where volunteers can sign up. I will also include an email address for those who have questions, or if you want to reach out via email to contact us about volunteering.
So Sarah, we have another question that's related to that, with how people can volunteer. So can youth and minors get involved, and if so, how?
Another great question. And so yes, we do have opportunities for individuals that are under 18 years of age, but it does depend on the task. It's not necessarily dictated by us at Habitat Greater Fresno Area. There are some guidelines through Cal OSHA, as well as our insurance through Habitat International, that set those guidelines for us. Typically, volunteers 14 and 15 are able to volunteer at our Restore locations with an adult. Volunteers 16 and older can volunteer at our Restore locations without an adult. Very similar to our Acts of Kindness projects, the majority of our Acts of Kindness projects are appropriate for 14 and older. Some, depending on the tasks, do have to be 16 and older or 18 and older. And then typically and traditionally at our construction site, it is 18 and older. However, we do have the possibility for specific partnerships with schools or organized youth programs, specifically with career technical education, where we are able to have youth out for specific build days at the construction site. We also have special events throughout the year that are geared towards family volunteering, which typically allow us to have volunteers as young as 7 on site completing tasks alongside their families. Again, if you are interested in that, the email that I'm putting in the chat right now is the place to connect. So I see another question that came up in our question and answer. And so this is one for our panel members. What kind of skill set have you learned through your time with Habitat for Humanity? So are there any specific skills that you have learned as a direct relation to your involvement with Habitat?
I would say I've always been like a compassionate person. But you know, when you're young, you don't really flex that muscle as much unless you get into certain situations and you have to display that. But I feel like I've been really able to utilize my just the compassion I have through working with the homeowners and just being able to directly connect with whatever their situation is. I just met a homeowner recently who is going through cancer, and automatically I wanted him to understand, no matter how long you're here to be here on this earth, you know, I want to if I can make you happy in this project, I want to do that. So I'm just willing and able to do anything I can to make this homeowner happy, and just show love and compassion to them so that they know that we care. So it feels good to be able to do that on a daily basis with meeting these homeowners and completing these projects. So I think that that's been really like a skill, not a skill, but just something I've been able to utilize and use and share with people on a daily.
Thanks for answering, Chelsea. It's an honor to work alongside with you, and being compassionate is one of your many skills, and I get to learn so much from you as well. So another question that we have is, we're going to transition into something a little more personal. What advice would you have given yourself at your high school graduation?
I think I can tackle that for a quick moment. I think I would have told myself to be more curious. I always thought and kind of carried with me into the workplace, into college, that I was sort of expected to already know the answers. And I wasn't, as a younger person, always digging deeply enough to get more information and look a little bit under the surface at things. And that's something I've had to learn over the years, and certainly been part of the work I've done with Habitat is how can I make this product better? How can I make a relationship on the job site better? How can, you know, for instance, when I served on the board, how can I work with a donor better? All sorts of things. I've learned to develop that curiosity and to really pay attention to that question.
I think for me, part of it has been when I left high school, I think the idea was you find your career and you work it forever. And I think to not be so stressed about that. I think at 50, I got my favorite job ever, the job I've always wanted, which is being a drafter in an architectural firm. but God led me through many, many, many steps to get me there. Instead of going to college, I worked in construction and learned how to build, which I have found a lot of drafters don't always know. Bless their hearts, which is also why I love Habitat, because when I draw something now, I can go out to the job site and go, that's what it's supposed to look like. So I can see it in 3D, but just to take every job I had and learn from it and move it to the next job, and then learn from that and move it to the next job. And all of my accumulated jobs have gotten me to this job. And so, and whatever the next job is and so on. So just to not be so stressed about finding your forever career, and take advantage of every opportunity you're given and learn every single thing you can. Take on more than you think, learn everything, and take it to the next job. So
I think I would advise myself back, if I go back, I think probably I will just tell myself to be more bold, you know, and not really take, not base your decisions off of other people's opinions or how they think you should live your life. I think that for a young female of that age, it's very common that you take a lot of advice and, you know, a lot of comments from everyone. And I think just living your life as you think you should, you know, and not basis of other people's opinion, not really care at that age. I think that will open up a whole new world of curiosity and exploration.
I think for me, it would be very similar to Marina's advice, but I would say get to know myself, really get some time to get to know who you are, and then never stop learning. I think those would be the two biggest pieces of advice that I would give myself.
I think for me, it would be, I agree with Stacy, just, you know, tackling whatever comes to you, you know, you go to one job and not to be afraid to take challenges with taking on another job, even if it's different and you feel that you're not going to be able to cover that field as expected, but just take on that challenge, because you'd be surprised of what you can do.
Wonderful. Thank you all for sharing. I think that I can attest for everyone that all of that advice is not only relevant to a high schooler, but I think it's also relevant to everyone. So thank you again to our panelists and our attendees for joining us today. We are going to wrap up the question component of today's discussion, and I'm going to kick it over to Megan.